Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. Thank you for joining us. We're virtual only, based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The phone number works if you'd like to contact me. We do the thought behind the thought. We're doing the philosophy of eschatology. It's more like a magazine, not a news report show. What you need to know, your reality, our existence, what's happening in the world. We're solving a little piece of revelation that's going to be soon, which is Revelation 1:1. How things seem to be soon in Revelation, and we seem to be soon arriving at that revelation point. Okay, so I'm arguing 2025 is interesting. I'm saying it's soon in terms of it could be 2025 or 6 or 7 or 8, but 2025 is interesting, and there's some evidence. So we're going to examine it today. Does it start the tribulation? I don't know. Are the Essenes correct with this? I don't know. It's very interesting. Okay, so but other people that are just regular folks are saying it seems like the end of everything is occurring. So this is Victor Davis Hanson. I cite him all the time. I love Victor. He's saying it seems like it's the end of everything. Like the whole world, the Western society, civilization is just collapsing and killing itself off. So is the end near? Well, some of it, according to him, is occurring right now. And then on the other side, this is the prepper guys, and they know their business is booming. So we can know the season of the end of this age before the return of Messiah. So it's just interesting that these guys are all citing something, that seems like the end is soon, okay, like Revelation 1:1. So we do the philosophy of the end of days. The end seems to be soon, but how soon is soon? We'll find out. We'll talk about the Bible. We'll talk about news and things like that. So what got me thinking about this more and more and more is people like Messiah 2030 that say it seems like we're in that window between, say, 2025 and 2033 that seems to be a good time for Yeshua to return. And there seems to be some pretty good evidence. So there's different, 7-year patterns, 2023 to 2030 or 2024 to 2031. And people pick and choose what they want. Here's one on the right-hand side saying our 7 years of plenty started in 2016. And so they're predicting 2030 for the second coming. Well, not so much. We've passed by. We're almost up to 2025. Okay. Now this guy's interesting because he's looking at more of a 2031. So he's starting everything this fall in 2024, and his name is Daniel Larimer, and it's just interesting. He's a rapture guy. Rapture, tribulation time frame, and the abomination of desolation. And so he's got his little chart here. The next slide will show it better. But basically, his scriptural evidence, the tribulation timeline beginning in the fall of 2024. And so, he cites the abomination of desolation. Where is it here? Kind of 2028, 2029. Okay. So interesting, definitely worth a look. So once again, he is starting in 2024 in the fall, and October 2nd of the first day of Tabernacles. And then he's saying that's the earliest year of release based on Deuteronomy. I love his verses. So the main thing is, it seems interesting. It could start this fall. I mean, soon would be this fall, but we'll see. We'll see, But anyway, it's interesting to clip this out and take a peek. Now, the next one that agrees that we're coming up to something is the Pope and the Catholic Church. They don't believe in the Shmita year, but they believe in the Yovel, the Jubilee year. Will begin on December 24th, Christmas Eve, and will continue until the closing day on January 6th of 2026. Interesting, the Feast of Epiphany. I don't celebrate any of those things. I have many good Catholic friends. They're pro-life, and I really appreciate that. And so if they want to celebrate a Jubilee in 2025, it's intriguing, okay? That would take you through to 2032 if that started out the year time frame, okay? The 7 years. So the Essenes, Tom Horn, who is now deceased, has been talking about this for many, many years until he died. And he just feels that the final Jubilee will start in 2025. And there are other people, Josh Peck and Ken Johnson, that believe this too. And so he's arguing something called zeitgeist, which is the defining spirit or mood of an era. And the defining spirit of this era seems to be that we're falling apart as a world, and we need the Messiah. We really do. So he cites hidden secrets and forgotten prophecies surrounding the year of 2025, how the current U.S. government is tied to America's occult destiny, lost prophecies from Qumran, forecasting 2025 as the final age of man. They would argue that the actual time frame would end in 2075, but that Yeshua could return earlier in that time frame, say around 2032, say, okay? Why historians and intelligence agencies foresee a totalitarian world government by 2025, and both sides, the occultists too, and then the arrival of the Antichrist always, and things like that, and malevolent Orwellian Trinity currently in convergence. Oh, thank you, Tom. So Zeitgeist 2025, and then the predictions that the Essenes are saying that it seems to be that final Jubilee. Very interesting. Okay. So, but Tom's no longer with us. This is Doug Casey being interviewed by Matthew Smith. And Doug Casey's quote is outrageous, but also credible. Highly urbanized will fall the hardest. And so Doug Casey's shocking 2025 Deagle forecast. We'll cover Deagle in the next slide. War, population reduction, and collapse. Very interesting interview. And he is an optimist. He's a money-making guy, but he also studies the trends. And he says, it's credible that we could have war, population reduction, and collapse in 2025. It is. It's probable. And it could happen quickly. So Deagle's forecast across many Western nations, mostly, that in 2014, the Deagle Corp predicted a 70.2% reduction in the U.S. population by 2025. And why would it be? Well, the main thing is that certain westernized countries are going to fall the most, and certain countries that are already in the third world are probably going to do better and not lose hardly anybody at all. Well, if we have not an EMP, but if we have a solar micronova, that would cause us to go back to the third world, and certain people would live and certain people would die. And it would be the United States, according to this chart, where we would go from 327 million down to 100 million very, very quickly. We would consume each other, so that would be like the fourth seal. But we already have other cases where we'll have dramatic reductions in population just based on the fact that we aren't having babies, the babies aren't living, and people are just dying for strange reasons. So get used to it. According to the Deagle report, Germany will lose 65.1% of their population by the year 2025. That would be an ELE for them. The Deagle reported that Australia would lose 34.6% of their population. Very interesting. So modernized Western nations would lose the most, and it would probably average out to be about 25% of the population worldwide. Now, Deagle also likes it to be 2025, and that's what they described. So you'll see the D's by 25 there on the upper right-hand side. Well, the blood moon eclipses occur in 25 two times, and then 26 one time, and that would be soon by our standards right now. And so these are the 9 eclipses coming, and then we're pretty much done with the pattern. If you see the sun go from yellow to white, which it's already done, and then to red, then to black, and I'll describe it to you as a mohair micronova, and it matches with that blood moon eclipse, then boom, that's the sixth seal, and then we would be soon going into the Great Tribulation. So this is really interesting. This Scott Ritzema is a really pretty SDA pastor. Obviously, he was hand selected because he's very good at communicating and he looks great. And they're always looking for their next hero to give us the news. And so I'm arguing that he has many, many mules creating the content for him, but it's still pretty interesting stuff. So if you want to watch this particular podcast, The Unshakable Truth, 2025 to 2030 Crisis Unveiled. One of my friends, Mark, sent this over to me. And so what he's predicting from something published in 1997, Project 2025 says nanotech devices, genomics and medicine, vegetarianism will be brought to the fore for health, environmental, and ethical reason. Machine learning will surpass that of human beings' ability to learn. Family size will be below replacement rates. In most advanced nations, family size will be well above replacement rates in the less developed world, okay? And the worldwide popular culture will take over. The national universal health care, the cost of energy will rise, computers will translate human languages, environmental degradation, especially in the developing world, more schooling. The multinational corporation will be the world's dominant business form, privatization of many highways, population will rise from 5.6 million to 8.4 billion. Yeah, it's happening. So this Project 2025 that was published in 1997 seems to be accurate. And so Scott found it. Good for you. Or one of his mules found it. So the next things that have not occurred yet, but are due by 2025, according to the experts, are World War III, nuclear device causing widespread contamination, additional epidemics, cyber attacks, or in their words, computer-based socially significant crime, such as tampering with air traffic control or national security systems, a global currency, and then mass starvation. Well, that was published in 1997, about 2025. It's pretty accurate, guys. So Scott has done a good job of, digging for information, or his mules have. So that was the SDA opinion, and the SDAs are very good at eschatology. They spend tons of time on that, and they have top people working on it. They have been eschatologists longer than most people have been. Okay, so now we're going to jump into what Scott cited, but I'm going to cite it from my sources. And Scott cited that Alice Bailey was the mother of the New Age movement, and this is from Ray Youngin, and she was involved in white magic. She was involved in discipling people, and Alice Bailey was a wicked, evil person that pretended to be a devoted Christian, but she was a white magician, and it's just really bad. She wrote many, many years ago with the Lucis Publishing Company out of New York, and Lucis is like Lucifer. Yeah, that's what it was. Lucifer Publishing. They turned it into Lucis, thinking, well, it won't sound as evil. So what she quoted probably back in 1945 is the externalization of the hierarchy. The spiritual hierarchy is in process of externalizing, so that in time the masters will again walk on earth amongst us. That's Alice Bailey writing for the Lucis Trust. So that means the masters, the fallen angels, demons, other creatures, EDs, extraterrestrials, things like that, extra dimensionals, will walk amongst us. And she says by 2025. Interesting. So Alice Bailey, 10-point strategy of the New World Order: take God and prayer out of the education system, reduce parental authority over children, destroy the traditional Christian family structure. If sex is free, make abortion legal and easy, make divorce easy and legal, free people from the concept of marriage for life, make homosexuality an alternative lifestyle, debase art, make it run mad, use media to promote and change mindset, create an interfaith movement, get governments to make all these law, and get the church to endorse these changes. And then on the right-hand side, are Alice Bailey's teachings satanic or part of a conspiracy for a one-world government? It should be noted that there is no 10-point plan or strategy. Well, we're reading it on the left-hand side, but this guy, Patrick Chenard, said, no, she's a great lady. She's a devoted Christian. She never relinquished her faith in favor of theosophy. Well, of course she did. She wrote about it, but this is somebody covering for her. Okay, so yeah, obviously she was part of Lucis Trust, and I want you to read on the right-hand side below the red arrow. For example, prophecies about the significance of the year 2012 created a dynamic environment of expectation and action. While this led to some popular elements of fear and fantasy, the intelligent focus on future possibilities contributed to the important Earth Summit in Rio in June. Prophecies about the year 2000 contributed to a mental climate that made possible the important Millennium Declaration of the United Nations containing the Millennium Development Goals. So they're totally UN, they're totally 2012, totally 2000, totally 2025 on the right-hand side. And by the way, the 2012 sounds like the third seal. So 2025 is a Jubilee year. This is Lucis Trust saying this. 2025 is a Jubilee year in the Christian and Jewish calendar that is also a focus of prophecy. Yeah, Lucis Trust writing this. The ageless wisdom suggests that the 25th year of every century, there is a gathering on the subtle planes of all masters. Masters are fallen angels, saints, whatever she means by that, rishis, whatever, enlightened beings, probably fallen angels or something like that. Over time, this is followed by significant changes in humanity because of the growth of soul values, the sense of synthesis, the inclusive spirit. And Doug Hamp, one of my friends, writes on this combination, this. Why am I blanking on his books? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it because I'm thinking about Alice Bailey. Corruption of the genetic code, and so he writes about that all the time. This is what she's talking about: the seed swap that probably will occur at some point in time. So on the bottom here in the red, for expecting the worlds of soul and outer human living to be increasingly aligned in the years and decades following 2025. They're predicting something changes in 2025. Sounds like the third seal. The third seal, according to me, occurred in 2012, the summer. I was busy working on my book. I met a young man at our Sabbath fellowship that claimed God gave him a message for the pastor and the elders. Technically, I was a pastor of a group at that point in time. And so I worked on him for an hour. He gave me the message. There will be a catastrophic storm this fall after Sukkot, but before the end of October. The sign of the storm will be snow and a broom. After prodding, he also stated the third seal opened that summer, okay, during 2012. Then about 6 months later, I met with Mark, who I already cited, and he's the one that gave me the SDA stuff. He's an SDA guy, but he's really, he loves Yeshua, and also he's into the festivals and the Moedim, or rather, and many other Torah aspects, which I am also. So he's a good friend. He said, Joel, do you want to know what 2012 means with this prophecy that you have? Read 1 Kings 12. How Jeroboam created a false Sukkot, and that's when Obama was elected, during that false Sukkot of 2012, and that's when Hoshana Rabbah occurred. I was talking to a guy that lived on the East Coast at that point in time, and he remembers Hurricane Sandy and all the storms and the snow and the broom. So if you lived on the East Coast near Wall Street, you knew about Hurricane Sandy. You remembered it, okay? It proved a divided nation, and it proved, just like Jeroboam and Rehoboam, we had Obama take over in 2012 for a second term, and he divided the nation and divided the world too. So that's the third seal. But then we move forward and we talk about Alice Bailey again, because she aligned very similar to that. Watch 2012, and we did. So this is from Ancient Inquiries about Alice Bailey's prophecy about 2012, and it's links to the whatever, Kalakakra Tantra, whatever that is. Okay, so we're reading on the right hand side. The year 2025 has been specifically mentioned by Theosophist Alice Bailey in some of her writings nearly a century ago as being a herald of the period of impending transformation. Alice Bailey has written more than 24 books on various theosophical and esoteric subjects. She has also claimed that the majority of her works, which were written between 1919 and 1949, had been telepathically transmitted to her by the Tibetan master Djwhal Khul. Okay, now you know where she's automatic writing from. Okay, demons. Continuing on with the same article from Ancient Inquiries, what is probably the most relevant for our times is Bailey's statement regarding the date when the Avatar will manifest himself. She said that the reappearance of the Avatar and the externalization of the hierarchy, the demons, okay, the hierarchy of gods, lower g, small g, gods, or angels who work for the evolution of human consciousness would begin after 2025. In the externalization of the hierarchy, Bailey wrote, in 2025, the date, in all probability, will be set for the first stage of the externalization of the hierarchy, demonic involvement. Present cycle until that date, called technically the stage for the forerunner. It is preparatory in nature, testing in the methods, and intended to be revelatory in its techniques and results. Okay, right hand side. In 1945, at a time when the enemy's external threat through Hitler's armies had been averted, Bailey said that three recognitions must be evidenced by humanity before the year 2025. If the destruction of mankind is to be averted, they are: one, recognition of the Christ spirit within, which is a demon spirit within, according to her; the recognition of the hierarchy, which is fallen angels; the recognition of the divine plan. That's not divine by God. That's divine by the fallen angels. The destruction mentioned here could mean something like the great flood of the last days of Atlantis, although Bailey points out that some prophecies say that the destruction by fire is also, well, it's biblical, destruction by fire. If humanity fails to unite under the banner of the forces of light and against the forces of material aggression and selfishness, then the fiery ordeal will be unavoidable. Might be unavoidable. Okay. She predicts the Mahdi, Maitreya, which is kind of like the Mahdi. He's a mystical creature, and the Kalki avatar. He is in the process of returning. Okay, so she calls it Christ as a world teacher will return, but she's really describing it more as the Mahdi or the Maitreya or this avatar. And so her Christ is the master of masters and the instructor of angels, but it's not Yeshua. Okay, the great ashram with 7 divisions. The hierarchy is one great ashram. The ashram is the Lord of the world. That is Satan, Hasatan, whatever his name happens to be, probably Hillel. Headed by the world teacher, which would be Hillel. It radiates, not light, it radiates from God's light because he used to be in the face of God and be in the light of God. Understanding and power in the service of evolution, this one ashram consists of 7 divisions, 7 ashrams, or the centers of consciousness. And so on the left-hand side, I wanted to get back and cover this real quick. In the highlighted area, in 2025, the date in all probability will be set for the first stage of the externalization of the hierarchy. And then down below that on the left-hand side, these recognitions must be evidenced by humanity and affect human thinking and action if the total destruction of mankind is to be averted. They must form a theme of all the propaganda work to be done during the next few decades, until the year 2025. The spread of the Christ consciousness and this recognized presence with us is not yet attained. So this is 1919 to 1945, and she's talking about demons living with us and coming to be with us. So once again, Scott Ritzma came up with this or found it through his people. It's very good research. So according to some people, the Shemitah should be this fall, starting on 10/17 of 24. Okay, and this is based on the Torah, and then the Jubilee would be the next year in 2025. The Shemitah year would be then Moses commanded them at the end of every 7 years in the year of canceling debts during the festival of tabernacles, when all Israel comes to appear before Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, your God, at the place he will choose. You shall read the law, this Torah, before them in their hearing. That is Deuteronomy 31. And so it's just there has to be a canceling of debts this fall on or about 10/17 of 24 for us to be going into the Shemitah year. And then the Jubilee would be after that if it plays out based on the Essene calendar. Let's continue on. This is Deuteronomy 15, which is really, really important. Again, at the end of every 7 years, you shall grant a release. And this is the manner of the release. Every creditor shall release that which he has lent to his neighbor, and he shall not exact it of his neighbor, his brother, for the Lord's release is proclaimed. Then moving on through Deuteronomy 15, closer to verse 12, starting in 9. Beware lest there be a base thought in your minds and hearts, and you say, the 7th year, the year of release is at hand, and your eye be evil against your poor brother, and you give him nothing. And he cry unto Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh against you, and it will be a sin unto you. And if your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you, a slave, and serves you 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. So these are the criteria if we're going into the Shemitah year in 10/2 of, or rather, October of 24 or October again of 25. Very interesting because it would be on Yom Kippur on Tishri 10 when you would announce the Jubilee. Okay, so this is going to be weird. Just bear with me, okay? I've been digging through the Hebrew version of Revelation, and I've been digging through the Greek also, and I've been digging through many other books, and I found in the Bible a reference to Trump and a reference to Trump being reelected. Okay, and it's by harmonizing the Greek and the Hebrew. So what I'm arguing is that it appears, biblically speaking, and I'll explain it more later on, probably in my book, that Trump will win this fall and that we will go into immediate problems because there will be people in the center of the country that will foment a revolution against him. But in the meantime, we'll have this horrible situation where in 2025, it seems like we're going to have the blood moon eclipse and the micronova, and it's going to be like an EMP hitting the Earth. And so it would throw Trump for a loop. And so he's not really going to be able to rebuild. And also based on how I interpret scripture, and yes, it is biblical. This is not thus saith the Lord. This is just reading the Bible in Greek and Hebrew, that it seems as though Trump is going to be reelected, then the blood moon eclipse and the EMP, from the sun, and then we're going to have the two witnesses after that and go in. It's that soon, potentially, 25, 26, 27, 28, but very quickly, and that Trump would not serve the whole term. It's that soon, okay? So according to how I interpret, how I found it in the Bible, I'll try to explain it to you later on. But basically, that's what's going to occur. So we are in the birth pangs right now. We're probably in the fourth seal. We are not in the tribulation. We're not in the great tribulation. Why 2025? Because it may be that soon. It may be, people. Okay? And the two witnesses would show up just prior to going into the tribulation. Okay? So I want to show it to you in another graphic that's kind of cool. And the site Bill Cloud on the left-hand side, brilliant scholar, wonderful guy, about the birth pangs. This is a picture that somebody created, a graphic showing the seals, then the Great Tribulation, then the trumpets. I argued that's not exactly how it works. So I modified their stuff, showing the seals are the birth pangs, then the tribulation, and then the Great Tribulation after that, which would be the bowls. And according to George Ladd, who is a scholar, the seals are part of the Great Tribulation itself, are not part of the Great Tribulation itself, but are a preparatory and preliminary to the Great Tribulation. It is a very Hebraic way of thinking to tell a story and then retell it. According to evidenceunseen.com, that's George. Thank you. I agree with him. They seem to be not part of the Great Tribulation or even the tribulation. They are the preparatory area. And that's where we are right now. So you're working on clean garments. You're working on not being naked. You're working on attending a wedding at some point in time in the future, and you need to get there, people. Somehow, some way, get to the wedding. That means working on being the best you can be in terms of faith and good deeds towards other people, because it's going to be tough times going forward. It could be soon. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you, and God bless you. Hopefully we'll get together next week, and I'll try to explain why I think Trump is going to win, and I'll see how I explain in the Bible where I found it, which is just interesting. Take care, God.